It's not about me, it's about everyone else, and that's the whole thing. That's the whole journey about this place. It was always about the musos.
And then one day, Graham said, "Why don't you bring the girls?" Because I said I've been catching up with Gail.
I said, if I don't like it, I'm going home.
But in the beginning, you know, we played really loud.
Like where the paper mills is and the falls and that whole area there, that's a really special place. You can feel it.
1975 would have been the last time I set foot in this room.
Moorabool,
We haven't sung together for
Warrnambool,
20 years.
At least 20 years.
There's a lot of bulls in my country.
Barrabool.
It generally means a many of. So when you look at Barra, it means many. Barrabool is many of mountains.
Yeah, I'm looking at you. Yeah, great.
Put your background in behind me, you know. So I'm sure someone can.
There's a film crew standing here right in front of me.
Sorry, that's off the record.
Fines for paper mills have just had that history of creativeness and kept out a lot of the establishment, so to speak, and been its own world.
Mulung Bullock, Narek, Melinda Kennedy, Warang Barangurk. Waraki Dalma Nyaru, Warang Ja. Beniti Kanama, Ba Dalama, Benganek, Nala Nala Laba Gutnya. Dat Mok Buri.
This place was built in the 1870s and operated as a paper mill for 50 years up until the 1920s when it ceased operation. Yeah, after it was a paper mill, it was an ice factory for a number of years. Then the military took it over through the Second World War, and they would test and assemble the sea mines that were made at Ford Motor Company. We are on the confluence or the joining of the two rivers, the Barwon and the Moorabool River. This is a very special place for First Nations people.
The reason for a confluence was a place where we meet to actually make a decision about country. It's very special to us. So we would come to meet and have a Ballawun, which is called a meeting place.
Yeah, well, I had this crazy idea of buying all these Indian doors, and so I'd come back from India and I was sitting across the river talking to a friend, thinking, what am I going to do with all these doors that I've just purchased? And I looked over at the paper mill here and I remembered someone telling me about a space that was for lease over here, this Bluestone room. This place is a heritage listed arts and cultural precinct. The music was here long before the Lattes arrived.
The sound of the room is beautiful.
It was a great sound because the sound would just reverberate off all the metal, and it was just, it was, you know, powerful.
Here, this room here, this is a great acoustic room. It's all bluestone walls. They're 9 metres high, and it's lined with timber, antique doors. It makes a really great sound. It's a great acoustic room.
The sound in this room is absolutely fantastic, and it's effortless to sing and play in here.
It's just a beautiful room.
Finesford's out in the sticks. You know, it's country Victoria. You know, we're only 10 minutes from CBD, but it's country Victoria, and there was no one around here. And so there was quite a few rooms here. I think there were 6 of them that musicians would come to, and they seemed to start over there, and then once they got their colours, they moved on to different other places, and they would come from the old gatehouse up there, then come into this place, and then go into what we now call the Stone Vault Studio, which was called the Cork Castle. They put all the noisy ones in the Cork Castle because that's exactly what it is. It's lined with cork. There's 500 thick bluestone walls, plus it's lined with cork, and it is dead. It's great for the loud bands.
It was a rehearsal space in those days. And Rod Ho, who was the Goanna drummer, we were a very young band then. We were fresh off the blocks. We tried a few other names and they were pretty distressing. And when we ended up as Goanna, we got a residence at the Argyle Hotel, and every Friday night, it was a micro amount as well. But look, it was a break, and we couldn't believe our good fortune. So we had regular work, and so then we had to get our act together. We had to get a repertoire together. So we ended up down at the paper mill, along with everyone else. I think Red House, everyone used to rehearse. But yeah, it's really big. It looms large in my imagination and memory of the Geelong music scene.
And we had this whole wall here that was full of hay bales, trying to condense some of the noise.
There's this magic in this room.
In this place, yeah.
You can find a beautiful sound in here. You don't need to do much to make it sound beautiful.
As a young blokes, young men and women, trying to kind of make something happen, musically, creatively, and in Geelong, which was then still very much an industrial town. It was, the weirder the better, really. And being in this old Bluestone castle, cave, whatever, it had some bizarre kind of old world feeling about it that suited, I guess, the kind of rock and roll and whatever was going on in Geelong at the time. And it was cheap. It was really, really cheap, I don't even know if anyone formally ran it, to be honest.
The very first band that came out here was Shadowfax.
And I suppose we had quite a magic formula with Gary Crothall on drums, Rick Crothall on bass, that was his brother. And they introduced us to Rudy, the singer. He was Dutch. And then we had Gary Quince on lead guitar. Myself, I played rhythm guitar and stuff.
We were the first band that rehearsed in this place, so I understand why we're important.
I just knocked on the door there because I saw this building and we looked around there, we didn't know anyone, and there was a guy that was building boats down there somewhere. And he said, look, you should talk to these people that live, in that house over there. So I went up there and Alan opened the door and he said, he said, we were wondering if you were willing to, rent a house to a band, And he stood there for a while. And he said, and he got some keys and he said, well, I'll just have some keys, and he opened this room, And he said, would this do? I said, wow,
Jacques basically put Shadowfax together. I think our first rehearsal was in Jacques' lounge room, and then somehow he got onto the paper mills and rented, permanent rental, this fantastic room we're sitting in for the princely sum of $5 a week.
Yes, we rehearsed for 8 months, and I think we did like 1 gig at Eureka, to test out our equipment and stuff like that. And then one day Billy Thorpe came to play here, and the support band that was supposed to come from Melbourne didn't make it. They were sick, one of them. And they said if we wanted to play, we thought, wow, that was, playing in front of Billy Thorpe, Anyway, we did the gig, and it so happens that Bill Joseph, the owner of Premier Artists, was there. And he said, come to my office on Monday and I'll sign you up. So we went, we went straight from 1 gig really into an agency which would give us, 7, 8 gigs a week.
not only were we writing the music, but we had to have enough material to play anywhere.
Yep.
We wouldn't get hired if we never had enough songs. So.
They were 345s or something like that you'd have to do. So you needed 20 songs or something.
And we had, about 4 or 5 covers.
Yep.
But the rest we wrote.
There wasn't any original bands in Geelong at the time. There was only if bands came from Melbourne and played, in the Sundowner or something,
It's just all originals.
Mm.
But yes, a lot of hard work.
A lot of fun.
A lot of fun.
Yeah.
Actually, the 70s was, for a musician, was the best. It was the best era. I'd never heard of the paper mills, yet I'd lived in Geelong all my life. But one day we found ourselves in this particular room, and there was another band over in this side. At the time they were called Shadowfax, and it was through Shadowfax that I got to meet a guy called Jacques de Jong. When I came here, I was just a young guy that wanted to play, and I was lucky enough to score a gig with this particular band who were called Smoke and Ashes, and we could come here 24/7. Well, actually we couldn't. In that room we could, that was fully soundproofed. In this one we couldn't. We had to be out of here by 10:30 at night because Mr. Hoare, he had a strict rules with the bands, especially with his daughters. His daughters were to go nowhere near the musicians. We practiced here every single night, and we practiced there every single night. And all weekend, there was no break, and we just wrote song after song after song after song, and we rehearsed until we were that tight. There was no room for error. Everything was worked out. All the sort of choreography stuff with Jeff and his antics and harmonies were spot on. We found our sound, we found the groove, we found something that was uniquely us. And we're ready to set the world on fire.
Between 76 and 79, we were hiring halls, up and down the countryside from here to Queenscliff, sort of public halls, and then we decided that we'd try out here. We knew that there were other bands in this area. I think it was Shadowfax here, then there was 20th Century over there. Yeah, so I asked Alan whether we could have another space. It's too small. So he said, yeah, you can have another place. I'll show you where it is. And he takes us up to the back there somewhere, and it's underground. It's underground. It's filled with pipes and metal objects and rods and spouting and all this sort of stuff. Stuff because he's a plumber. Anyway, he says, well, the only way that you'll have to make a door. So we had to dig and made the door big enough so that we could take our equipment in and out. We did a 40-year reunion. And people loved it.
It was competitive, Geelong was a really healthy music scene, amazing music scene, really. Oh, there's punk stuff going on. There's Lizard, Monty, and and Lee, and there's John Delamore, who's like a rock god out there in the Geelong firmament. He looks like a rock god. He looks like he should be in Led Zeppelin in the 70s. It was a really heady and healthy time to be a musician. What did we think? We didn't really think, Melbourne seemed like a distant planet, like I said, but we thought if we could get some regular work in Geelong and down the Great Ocean Road, life would be good, and it was. I didn't get back here till Graham invited me to come and play the Door Gallery, and it was a little bit magical actually, and the fact that it was like 50 people capacity, it sounded like the basis for a world tour. Out here nothing changing, not in a hurry anyway. Can feel the endlessness, the coming of the light of day. Took it back to Joe's place. You wanna sell it in a marketplace? Look out. Right down that rabbit-proof fence.
Run about the dawn of time, the dreaming love began. Proud people came, looking for a promised land, running from a heart.
I think it was probably in the very early days of Goanna. I don't really have a clear memory of this, but just coming down to hang out at a rehearsal and kind of probably to annoy Shane, because I know Shane Howard. I think they used to, in the very early days of Goanna, rehearse at the paper mills. But also, the Geelong arts community, this is very tightly knit and everyone knows everyone.
I was launching an album and we're looking for places to play around Geelong, and it's just such a beautiful, there's not many lovely venues in Geelong actually for songwriters, and it just fit us so perfectly well. And Graham's such a great character and the place is just so beautiful, we just jumped at it. Yeah. Well, to me the general aesthetic is just so warm and just a very comfortable place where people can just feel at home and at ease as soon as you walk into the room, and that the stage is where it is, and just surrounded by people as if it's almost like a house concert really, but a really cool big house concert with a bar.
dark, it was cold. There was rats the size of cats down there.
That's part of the charm, I think, isn't it? It's just got a soul. So it's haunted, quite possibly.
There was 3 of us in the band that had nowhere to live, and we stumbled across this rehearsal space down at Finesford, and somebody had told us that we can go and rehearse in this room, and it was just a little bit away from where we ended up sleeping, which we called the dungeon. But we'd sort of rehearse there during the day, and then those people lucky enough to have cars and girlfriends would leave for the day. And then the rest of us, none of us had cars. We're all drinking. We had our guitars. We just kind of set up camp on the river there and play songs. And, you know, it was like we're a little bit of a freak show. People used to just come down, I think, just kind of like we're circus freaks, just to look at us. And they'd heard about these guys that were squatting on the river and living in this room. And so people used to come down every now and then and buy some beer or throw a loaf of bread to us, whatever. But, so yeah, we just sort of got to the point where we didn't have anywhere really to live, and we decided we just sort of we went and got some mattresses. I think we found at the tip there at Finesford, dusted them off, and threw them downstairs in the dungeon, and that was sort of that's where we called home for a little while. There was a little bit of an orb, a little bit of a spirit down there that all of us at different times felt as though we'd seen. It was an old silhouette of a lady who we named the Dungeon Lady, and you know, so you kind of knew that if you were down there for any amount of time, you might bump into that as well. So it wasn't a nice place to be on your own, especially after dark. But I think we just used to drink a little bit more just to try and get to sleep.
Jeff, how are you, mate?
Not too bad. How are you?
Look, this is I'm ringing because I'm at Finesford. Yeah. They've got a cafe down here called the Door Cafe.
Yeah.
And have you been down here at all?
No, I haven't been anywhere much lately. Yeah.
There's a film crew standing here right in front of me, who are doing an interview with me regarding the fire that we had, you know, way back in, was it in 91?
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, I was down there the night before he lit it too, or on the night that he lit it, but I went home. Monique and I were both down there. We were finishing off that exhibition and just tidying up everything and making sure everything was fine. And we went home at 3 o'clock.
Well, he must have been watching you.
So I did 17 huge paintings. They were all 6 foot high, and some of them were 8 foot long. Some of them were 6 feet long. So they were square 6 by 6 or 6 by 8, and there were 17 of them, and they were all finished. And the night that the guy came along to set that factory on fire was the night before the exhibition opening the next day.
It's a bit like when I used to book the Piping Hot Chicken shop, and people would always say, "So they sell chicken there?" And I'd say, "Yeah, it's a chicken shop." You know, it's like, "They sell doors there?" "Yeah, it's a door gallery." You know, you can't get around it. Graham and I got talking, and he might have approached me to come and play. I don't really remember. Or I might have approached him to book a show. Playing in this room feels extremely comfortable and easy. I've said to many people that it's the best sounding venue in Geelong. I do think that I have found a new audience here, and it's a mixture. I'm lucky enough to have a following, which will, you know, follow me if I ask them nicely.
As soon as we sang together, we sang together, and I got tears in my eyes. I think we all did a bit, and it just felt great. And the place felt great to sing here. We call this place home.
I was in my late teens. I started a little band with my brothers and sisters, and we came to this fabulous establishment, the Finesford Paper Mills, and all of a sudden I started a funk band with 2 of my best mates, and called the Funk Junkies. Lots of creatives were always here. It's an establishment for creatives, and they were always eclectic and fun to be around. To be honest, even as young musos, we felt at home.
I just walked into this place, and I felt the connection, some sort of musical connection.
Save the rivers, brothers and sisters. Are you listening? Can you hear her cry? Gotta pull together, stop the greed and the lies. If we don't, this country dies. If we don't, we'll walk.
For the last few years, Luke O'Connell has run the Sunday sessions. And we've had people from all over the world come and play there.
Opera singers, poets, you name it. Whoever wants to come in and have a go can have a go. Okay, when I started here, it was me on a coffee table with my music. That's all we had. There was no sound equipment, nothing. And I loved it then. And I would love it again tomorrow. If Graham said there's no more sound system, no more lights, I would still do it.
Landed on a sandy beach, named New South Wales. On a hill they raised a flag, called the British Earth. They chose to ignore. They were not the first to be here.
Who cares about the money? I want to move people's souls.
I was really happy that I could come down and play. And Bluestone Room, the song, obviously I wrote about the place. That was probably the one song most people, probably the song that did the best for me in terms of radio play and things like that. So it was really cool to have a bunch of people in that room and be able to tell the story about the song and the room and to play it there. It was just a real buzz, you know. I think Graham might have even paid me. So it was probably definitely the first time I had any money in that room.
Like a freak show, you know. People didn't believe that we lived here, and so they'd come in and they'd poke their nose in and have a look at where we were living and see the dirty mattresses on the floor and here you go, have a loaf of bread, and then they'd leave. And one of those guys that came down one time was a friend of one of the boys downstairs, and I'd met him, but I didn't know that that day that he turned up down here, we'd literally spend the next 10 years together every single day. He was a builder, and he used to go do his 8 hours of work, and then he'd come meet with me, and we'd do our 8 hours of drinking, and then he'd go to work, and he used to turn up down here every day like clockwork with a carton of VB, and all the boys would get drunk, and we'd go up and So he became our best buddy, and unfortunately a few years back he passed away. Died of misadventure. I think that's what they called it when Bon Scott died, so I think he died of a similar thing. And anyway, this song's about my friendship with the great Benny Glynn, and this place right here, a song called Bluestone Room. You met me in a bluestone room, living like a fool on a river, and what you came to deliver was the reason that I heard your voice. You seemed to know what to say, then as we drove from the river, well, I started my life with you.
for the sound of a cold can cracking. You said that you were back in the town, no, it was you. And then we drink to the light. You'd have a job in the morning. You'd call me up and you'd be on it. Say we're gonna do it again. And I'm so glad to love you and to share around it. It's so sad that I can only talk about it. The times we've had were never a thing I said it counted. You understand all the things that I talk about. Yeah. You never said that it's over, so it ain't over. Remember when we drove too long, sleeping in the back of your car, 35 degrees in the street, sweeping. When I rolled over, you were laying there dreaming, boy. You seem to know what to say when I was sad and blue, and all I had to do was take a look at you. And I'm so glad to love you and to share around it. It's so sad I can only talk about it. The times we've had were never a thing I said it counted. You understand all the things that I'm talking about. I'm so glad to love you and to share around it. It's so sad I can only talk about it. The times we've had were never a thing that I said it counted. You understand all the things that I'm talking about. Yeah. You never said it's over, so it ain't over. You never said that it's over, no, 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 and it ain't over. I won't let you down. You saved so much and you played it down. So much pain, we're gonna turn it around. Got your feet back onto the ground. I sure miss you now, and I sure miss you now. You never said it's over, so it ain't over. Cheers, guys. Thank you very much. I'm going to have a quick break, and then I'm going to come back, and when I come back, I'm going to be a country singer. How weird's that?
2, 3, 4.
Good night, farewell. It's sure been nice to see ya. You better believe it. Good night, adieu. We'll be back a singing, swinging with a little bit of soul. Now that the evening's over, we promise you one thing. We'll see you again sooner than later. Soul sisters swing. We got to go now. We'll see you at the next show.